Will the judicial reforms get passed?
I would expect eventually for the government to try to pass at least part of it, or a bit of a piecemeal fashion to save face and maybe to declare victory. But it seems to me like the original effort to Putinize Israel in an immediate and sweeping fashion probably is dead, because Netanyahu understands that the manifest economic damage that it would cause is making him unpopular. And that's more or less the story. The fact that it is harming social cohesion, I don't think is a reason to stop it, because that he thrives off that, and that is a feature, not a bug.
Their popularity, it lies in the hands of about
their electoral base
of the demonstration.
I would like to address this frequently heard trope that the majority of Israelis want reforms in the judicial system. In a way, it's true. The majority of all people want reform in all things. That is the nature of people. But in Israel, all the polls showed, up until about 5-6 years ago, before the campaign of disinformation and calumny, that the Supreme Court was among the most popular institutions in Israel, second only to the army. People the Supreme Court to be overridden by the parliament. They do not want politicians appointing judges. None of this is desired.
But if anything, this entire debate accomplishes that there is a certain consensus that there are some changes that needs to be made, something that was not there.
Those changes have nothing to do with what's being proposed.
We're talking about what are we going to do to this judicial system, and do we want to maintain what has been heretofore judicial independence in Israel, or do we want to remove the main check on political power, which is the Supreme Court?
The Haredim want their special dispensations to not face Supreme Court scrutiny, and the far right wants oppression of the Palestinians to be done without any checks. That's the basic 1/4 of Israel that favors these reforms. To mix that together with people who want trials to go faster and for the system to be more efficient because everyone wants reforms is classic misdirection.
Yeah, Gilad Katz is back,
Yes, well, it's got nothing to do with seeing the system go faster. That no one's talking about that. That's not a reform. That's hardly a change. We're talking about having a Supreme Court that is diverse, that can replica the Israeli society, which is not happening for the last 7 decades.
The opposition doing enough, or rather not doing enough.
I wouldn't expect that much from an opposition that managed to fritter away power and bumble its way through an incredibly misconceived campaign in November. So I'm actually surprised that they figured out how to do well enough to move about 10 to 50% of the electorate their way in the polls. But a truly successful opposition would find a way to recruit 5 righteous persons in the Sodom of the coalition and bring down a government.
500,000 Israelis out on the streets is the fear of dictatorship here. Israelis have seen what happened in Turkey. They see what happened in Poland. They see what's coming down the line from Hungary, and they're very afraid. And the coalition signaled its intent to do this even before the election. It did not talk about it before the election, but it signaled its intent through filing certain bills and through conversations that were had and through having its partner Religious Zionism release a platform that very much mirrors what's happening today.
Somewhat hid it from the public at large. It was not in Likud platform. Indeed, there was no platform. Netanyahu never talked about it. It wasn't even in his top 4 things that he mentioned in December as his goals for the government. Forming the government in late December, Netanyahu presented 4 major goals, not one of which was judicial reform. Never mind systemic overhaul.
But it's funny, dear panelists, because you all say that on the one hand, the government did not talk about it beforehand. On the other hand, that it did, that the opposition knew about it, that it didn't know. So
it was kind of obvious that they would do some version of it. And what has driven... I just want to make one point, please. You keep talking about this big street opposition carrier. You speak of civil society. These leaders could have said whatever they want to say, and no one would have paid attention, and there would not have been op-eds in CNN were it not for the fact that week after week, hundreds of thousands of Israelis are headed into the streets. And the reason for this is what Carrie said. They took off their masks too quickly in a ham-fisted way, and they created genuine, real street opposition. Street opposition, which includes people who voted for the right. Now, if you say, well, the central core of it wants to bring down a government, you have not discovered the new continent. Hold on. This coalition got 49% of the vote. Just to put some data on it.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
So according to what you say,
check your numbers.
We don't have the majority. So how about having, how much did Lapid?
You have a majority because 6% of the vote was thrown away, all of it on the central
bottom line, they won the election.
They won the election, but you don't have a mandate for most of the people.
I think it's a